Greetings, friends and followers. This is Nurses Talking, and I am Dale Barcy. As always, if you like what you see and hear, subscribe. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. Here on Nurses Talking, we speak to nurses anywhere in the world and at any stage in their nursing journey. And today I'm very, very pleased to welcome Jordia Batchelor out of Maryland, USA. Jordia is a doctoral prepared family nurse practitioner specializing in palliative care. She's a nurse resilience coach. She's a creator of a RAP framework, and that is Reset, Firm, Pursue. And she says that's to support nurses navigating workplace anxiety. And she's also the founder and CEO of Global RAP Impact LLC, which is a coaching and consulting company. So, welcome, 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 Dr. Jordia Batchelor.
I'm so pleased, so happy to be here. Thank you so much, Dale, for the
It's my
opportunity to be here.
it's my pleasure. It's my absolute pleasure. I'm thanking you for coming.
Yes.
So tell me, first thing, I'm always curious, why are
Mhm.
you a nurse?
Why am I a nurse? That's a great question. Never thought I was going to be nursing. Growing up in Jamaica, I did most like business background in school. But my uncle, I lived with my aunt and my uncle initially, always called me a nurse from when I was a child. Always called me a nurse, and I always wondered why. Like, why are you calling me a nurse? Like, anytime you got a cut, anytime you got sick or anything, nurse. It was the weirdest thing. So when I migrated here, it was a no-brainer. Nursing was the first thing that came to mind at that time as well. You know, nursing, there's so much you can do. And
Mm,
everyone I spoke to was encouraging me to go into nursing. So it just fit. I always say I wasn't called to nursing. Nursing actually called me. So
yeah.
that's how I actually came into nursing. My uncle always called me a nurse from when I was a child, and when I came here, it just naturally went into nursing.
So he saw this thing in you and he sawed that seed
He
and
did.
watered it and nurtured it.
He literally did, because I was like, why is this man calling me a nurse? You know. But I guess generally I have this caring. I care for people a lot, and I guess that maybe that's what he saw, like my compassion
Hmm.
for others.
Hmm.
Um, really pulled to like caring for people. Genuinely, so naturally that comes to me. So it was just a no brainer.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, but having that, sowed into you,
Hmm.
um, and as you say, it just fit. But what challenged you?
What challenged me as a nurse?
Mm,
Going into nursing, it was a lot. Oh
yeah.
my goodness, nursing school, as we all know it, every single time up until today, if I see a nursing student on my units on the floor, I'm like, thank you, Jesus, thank you, Jesus, thank you, Jesus. It was such a trying time getting
Yes.
into school while you're in school, so stressful. From just my associate, the BSN was okay, but the doctoral part as well, it was very stressful. Anxiety all the time, just imposter syndrome. Am I
Hmm.
good enough? Like, can I do it? Especially when I went through a period where I was failing like class. I remember my first nursing class. I failed it. And I think half the class failed. And I was like, is this what we signed up for? I'm not sure why they made the program so rigorous.
Hmm.
Half my class failed, and I felt like a failure. This is something I wanted to do. I decided that I wanted to go into it, and I failed. But thankfully, I did not quit. I was
Yeah.
able to, re-enroll the next semester. And now, even though the program was stressful, I kept going. I kept going. So many challenges in terms of, your confidence being shattered, imposter syndrome,
Hmm.
feeling like you don't fit in, feeling like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? Do I even belong here? So
Yeah.
all of those things along the way from my first degree all the way up until my doctorate, to be honest. So many challenges. Stress and anxiety was one of the main ones, and imposter syndrome.
Yeah, yeah. And that imposter syndrome sneaks up into on you and it works its way into your consciousness and you know so insidious.
It does. It does.
Anyway, so having done that, so what kind of areas did you work?
So when I left, well, I started as a nursing assistant, which was great. I was happy that I had that background knowledge while I was in
Mm,
school too, so I could see like the bedside or the nurses act,
yeah,
how they care for the patient, like how they gave meds. So learning as I was on the floor, always looking and okay, I'm going to be a nurse one day, so let me see how they do that. So I started as
yeah.
a CNA, a nursing assistant, and then I got my first nursing job in the facility that I worked as a CNA, which was great, on a step down telemetry floor. I
Mm-hmm.
think I was there for maybe 2+ years. And then I started my BSN and then I went to float pool. So while I was getting my BSN done, I went to the float pool department. I was floating between 3 or 4 hospitals. They're sister hospitals. So like the system was the same, but
Okay.
obviously it was challenging having to drive to different facilities. The cultures are still different, even though they were under the same umbrella. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so floating all throughout my BSN, all throughout 3 pregnancies. I was in school forever, to be honest. I had all my babies, except the last one in school. But float pool was it for me. After my step down, first tele step down position, floating was all what I did all throughout the rest of the years. So even
Mm-hmm.
when I moved, relocated after I got married, I still went into float pool up until I did my doctoral studies.
Awesome. And so you specialize now in palliative care.
Hmm.
What about that
Ooh,
draws you?
I don't know how I came here. I do not know how I landed in palliative medicine. When I finished school at the same facility that I was a nurse.
Yeah.
Um, I was just looking for positions that, because they had like outpatient clinics. They had some inpatient positions. I wasn't sure if I wanted to work the clinic environment because of the heavy turnover and just
Yeah.
that wasn't me, like in terms of how I'm built. I like
Mm-hmm.
when I'm able to care and pour into my patients
Yeah.
and actually be there and be present. So palliative, I saw a position opening and I was like, what is that? Did my research and what really pulled me is the holistic approach. So you're not just caring for the person, you're addressing their social issues,
Mm-hmm.
their emotional needs, and
Mm-hmm.
also spiritual, which is a big part. I'm a person of
Mm-hmm.
faith. So that was what really pulled me in. And to be honest, it is not an easy position to be in because most of our patients are sick. They're in the
Mm-hmm.
ICU, they're nearing end of life. And
Yeah.
us having to come in and have that conversation
Yeah.
with families about what are your
Yeah.
goals? How do we
Yeah.
move forward? But
Yeah.
I've grown to love it. Um, Even though it can be emotionally draining, I've grown to love it.
Yeah. 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 And I not I've haven't specialized as such in palliative care, but what I've noticed or what I know is that in that instance, in those instances where you have the opportunity to be close to someone at the end of their life, it's such a privilege.
Absolutely.
It is such a privilege.
I think it is because emotionally they're already drained. Their hopes are shattered. They're grieving, anticipatory grieving.
Yeah.
They talk
Mm-hmm.
about that. It is a
Mm-hmm.
real thing. It is such a real thing. And it's hard. Even our team, it's difficult to be even talking about anything
Yeah.
beyond
Yeah.
improvement.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
challenging, but it's necessary. They're so appreciative for someone to really. And what I love about my position is the opportunity to actually, with palliative, you're not rushed like whatever time the patients and the
You
family
need.
needs, you're able to sit with them. Sometimes our meetings go for 30 minutes, an hour, over an hour, and
Mm-hmm.
family are able to really pour out and they're able to really talk about their loved ones. You create that
Yeah.
space for them.
Yeah.
We don't get that in any other specialty. Like
I
the doctors are busy, they have to move on.
Yeah.
I love that, getting to know the entire person. And I think that really helps to give them that space to talk
Yeah.
and to really know them from that level. So
Yeah. 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 And it gives the feeling of a smoother transition rather than a rushed
mhm,
transition. Yeah.
mhm, absolutely.
So you you've been called nurse for a long time. I
Mm-hmm.
know you are.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what do you think, though? You think you'd like to see change about nursing?
Oh, wow, that's a good question. I think in this season, again, it's been a long time, but in this current season, I think my passion or desire is to see it shift in the culture, in terms of support for nurses. And which is why I created my business and, trying to coach those new nurses,
Mm-hmm.
so that they can feel more heard. They can be seen, feel heard, and also supported. In talking to some of the nurse managers, recent nurse managers, current facility and outside, support has been the main issues for, especially for the new nurses. After orientation, they get that 3 months and they feel like, they have their cards, they're supported, but after that, they feel abandoned. And it's almost like they're left to drown. So creating that space, that culture, where they feel, I think, obviously heard, seen, but supported is what I want to see. And that's why, so many for new nurses leave, in doing the research, I think up to 50% leave within the first 2 years. It's high.
It's
Like, how
high.
are we retaining? So, also creating resources that we can actually keep our nurses. Because in the long run, it will affect just the outcome in general and us. Yeah. So yeah, well-being is one of my biggest thing. Having nurses feel seen, heard, supported, and obviously, finding things and giving them resources that will kind of improve their
Yeah,
overall well-being.
yeah. So you created the RAP framework and the global RAP impact
Mm-hmm.
LLC. So first of all, you said RAP is for Reset Affirm Pursue. What made you
Mm-hmm.
come up with that name?
Okay, good question. During my doctoral degree, my program, oh, that was stressful. However, it was an opportunity during that time because it was in 2020, right in the middle of COVID,
Hmm.
where the turnover was ridiculous, the stress, the anxiety of the unknown with COVID. We don't know what's going on.
Yes.
Nurses have to go in not knowing, scared, all those things. And I needed a quality improvement project as well, and it's in my same facility. So I was able to get a mentor. He was a stakeholder in the facility. Blessedly, it was ordained, and nobody can tell me otherwise. Um, and we created an oasis room, oasis rooms for nurses and
Yes.
staff, to go to really go to reset, and just take a break during their shifts. So these rooms had massage chairs, aromatherapy. We had affirmation boards and gratitude boards, greenery, and just water fountains, things that they can just really literally go in and breathe.
Hmm.
Um, so during that time, in addition to that, that was my project as well, my quality improvement project, but I needed
Project.
something tangible as well. So
Hmm.
I said the wrap, I call it the wrap tool at that point because it was different exercises that I, came up with and designed and printed for the nurses and staff to use while they were in the room. So it had like breathing exercises, affirmation exercises. That's where the wrap framework was birth. So reset, affirm, and pursue. I called it Let's Wrap at that
Hmm.
point. Resetting their physical, their mental, and their emotional state when they're in the room, and affirming themselves. I can do it. Whatever they need in that moment, just
Hmm.
really affirming themselves when they step into that room, and obviously pursuing. You got to continue with your shift, right?
Yeah.
Pursuing, whatever tasks and responsibilities they had. So that's where that was birthed. And to be honest, it came from a personal place as well, because was going through a lot during my doctoral degree program. And literally, that framework was helping me.
Uh-huh.
So it
Uh-huh.
came natural from a natural place. Thankfully, by God's grace, it was a download from, the Holy Spirit. All credit to Him. Personally, it helped me, and I was able to translate that into a resource in the space, Oasis Room. So that's where that came from. Reset, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, because the RAP framework can be used in every and any aspect. It's not just for nurses, but my quality improvement was for nurses at that point. And that's where it came from. And, obviously stepping into the entrepreneurial space, it came natural. Okay, what would I name my business? Going into coaching nurses, global RAP impact, because my vision is to really see nurses using these steps, and they don't have to be stepwise. They can be at any point in time. You need to affirm yourself at every time given day. Affirming yourself regarding anything, resetting your mind, your emotion, those negative thoughts. At some point in time, we're doing that, or we need to do it, and pursuing whatever task that we do have on hand, whether it's goals, personal, professional, business tasks. So with that being said, the global RAP impact is a vision that I saw, especially with my aim to empower nurses globally. And I do see it globally. Like that's the vision, and I know it will get there. Just empowering nurses to reset, affirm, and pursue resilience, especially new nurses, but nurses in general.
Yeah. I love that global view because, there was a time, maybe not so long ago, maybe even just before COVID. So that was within the last 10 years, 10 years, when our view was really very insular and local. I think we did not really see ourselves as such a global people. You saw yourself living in Maryland, and I see myself living in Connecticut. But after this, with the blow up of things like Zoom,
right,
and being able to communicate more easily across borders and stuff like that, we begin to see ourselves as more as global citizens than as local citizens. So that you have that global view is huge.
Yes, and you realize that you're not alone. That's the main thing, because a lot of times we feel isolated. Oh, I'm the only one going through this. No one else is. When you're in the pits, sometimes you're in a ditch. You're like, oh my gosh, nobody else is going through this. It's just me. But yeah, with COVID, it opened up the ability to reach people that you have never had the opportunities to before. And you realize there's community. It's not just you, and there's power in that. So I definitely agree.
Yeah, there's huge power in that. There's huge power in that because when you feel alone, you don't want to open up. You don't want to tell anybody. You feel like, I don't know what's wrong with me. And then you realize it's not you.
Yes, and once somebody says, yeah, I'm going through that, you're like, oh, you're going through that too, so automatically you're like you gravitate to each other, you start supporting each other, which is what that's my passion. That's my passion. Yeah.
Absolutely. So what advice would you give to someone who wants to be a nurse?
Make sure you're sure. Make sure you know your why. Absolutely, because I know people go into nursing because of the money, of the flexibility, because of the accolades. Make sure you know your why. Why do you want to go into nursing? Because that's the thing that will anchor you in moments of doubt, in moments of stress and anxiety, in moments of imposter syndrome, which will come, absolutely come. So knowing your why is it that I really want to go into nursing? Make sure that's a part of the reason and the purpose, and make sure it's something that can really stabilize you in seasons where it's unstable.
Yeah. And that's one of the reasons that I started asking that first question, why are you a nurse? Because I know without any shadow of a doubt that if you don't know why, it is going to destroy you.
Yes, absolutely agree. Yes, it will.
What do you do? We talk a lot these days about self-care. So first of all, what does it mean to you? And what do you do to care for you?
Self-care to me means being present, to be honest. First of all, yourself, being present with your emotions. What are things I'm feeling currently? Whether they're negative or positives, because we're not going to always be on the high, right? Not going to always be in the happy and the joyful state. But being present and, one of my main focus with the RAP framework is actually mindfulness, being mindful of your emotions and the state, whether it's mental, physical, emotional, even spiritual. Spiritual is a big part of me as well. Your state. So being mindful of that, acknowledging it. Usually I would say accept it, but no. Acknowledge how you're
Knowledge.
feeling. Acknowledge how you're feeling. If it's a negative feeling, okay, acknowledge that it's negative, but also do not stay there. Do not stay in that thing. But yeah, self-care is extremely important in order for us, especially nurses, to care for others. We got to care for ourselves. On the floor when we're busy, we can't, not using the bathroom, not eating, running all day, right? Doing all the things. And at the end of the shift, we can't even walk or go home, or,
I
we're
know.
crying in the car because we're so drained. So it's important to care for ourselves so that we can be present for ourselves, present for the patient, and also be able to be present for the family. So self-care
Yeah.
is number one, is necessary. And I know we always say that it's a necessity, but it is a necessity.
It's a necessity. And I keep saying that we have got to stop. And as you say, it's a necessity, but we've got to stop accepting things for ourselves that we would not accept for our patients. We would not accept that our patients can go 12 hours without passing urine, but we accept it for ourselves. We would not accept if our patient didn't eat for 12 hours. We'd be finding all kinds of ways to encourage them to have something.
Yeah.
We accept that for ourselves. And all of this kind of, pushing yourself constantly on the back burner, I think we have to find a way to stop that and to integrate in our education of nurses the need for self-care. I don't think, my personal opinion is that we don't do that enough. And so nurses come onto the unit and not realizing that they need to care for themselves. They start out not realizing that need or giving enough importance to that need. And that's another one of the reasons that you see this 50% fallout in 2 years.
Yeah, I agree. And the culture, I'm glad that you mentioned that, because it's the culture, right? You should be hitting the floor running. Right? That's the culture that they create. And obviously, as a new nurse, you're trying to work up to that while you're trying to learn your skills and learning how to navigate the system. Because if you don't, you're a failure, right? Are you not cut out for this? That's the narrative that we need to change.
Yeah.
But I agree.
Yeah. So I have one last question. If you could say in one word what you see as the most essential quality of a nurse, what would that word be?
The most essential. I mean, we know naturally nurses are supposed to be caring. We know we don't have some caring nurses, unfortunately. But I think I'll go back to what I mentioned earlier, being present. I think you have to be present, be in tune, I'll say in tune with your emotions, especially when you're caring for patients and supporting family. So I would say one of the is many qualities, but one of is being able to be present in the moment. So that you can acknowledge your emotions, shift them if you need to, from negative to positive, and also to be present for your patients, be able to, I know a lot of times on the floor, we're busy with everything. We're thinking about patient number 2 down the hall that you have to run to, and you're doing meds, but your mind is not. So it is so important. It avoids or decreases issues. It's so many things that it avoids if you're just present. You just be mindful. Okay, I'm here. I'm with you today in this moment. Let's be present and be able to be present with their families too, so they'll feel supported. They can tell when you're distracted. They can tell. They can read your emotions. They can read how you interact with them. So being present in the moment. If you're caring for a patient or a family, supporting a family, make sure you're there, not just physically, but also mentally, emotionally as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I agree with that. Because as you just said, it shows when you're not present. And it's something that we have to, I think work on, because let's face it, that's not really the easiest thing when you know that you have all this on your plate, and you know that you have time constraints and all of this kind of thing. But it is absolutely important to be present. And the thing, what I've found, Georgia, is that if you are present, when you are present with a patient, let us say, you actually end up spending less time, um, less wasted time, I should say, with that patient. Because in that moment when you're present, you get to do and you get to say and you get to, um, commit all of what you need to do, in a way that they get it.
Yeah.
And so when you move on, you are satisfied, they are satisfied, and you'll find that you're not necessarily having to come back to them 5 minutes later to reinforce what you just said because they got it.
Mm-hmm. And they're able to feel it. Like we talk about
Yes.
that, right? They
Yes.
feel it. They feel that
Yes.
you're
Yeah.
intentional. You're actually, you care for them. Because if you
Cared
don't,
for them.
they know. They know that
Yes.
nurse don't care.
Yes.
She
And they
just,
feel cared for.
yeah. And
Yeah.
that's the thing. Feeling cared for, it's important because they're in a vulnerable state. That's why they're here. They're vulnerable. We're seeing
Mm.
things that usually no one will see when they're in the hospital, right? As nurses, we see so
Yeah.
much, and they pour the patients, are open to us in many ways,
Yeah.
literally.
Yeah.
So we need to, maintain their dignity. We at least give them that attention and time, and be
Yeah.
present with them.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what creates that trust that we say,
Mm-hmm.
that we're the most trusted profession. That's what creates that trust.
Yes.
Jordia, I enjoyed having this conversation with you.
Likewise, Dale. Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure, my pleasure.